All right, welcome everybody to the October 16th, 2025 edition of the Technical Advisory Council of the Confidential Computing Consortium. We are here to help accelerate the adoption of confidential computing. Everybody's welcome to jump into the discussion constructively, just as you are welcome to jump into our open source projects and our other technical community meetings. You can find all of those on the confidentialcomputing.io website. We also abide by the antitrust policy from the Linux Foundation, and you can find that on linuxfoundation.org/antitrust-policy. Reminder that if you're here, you've probably already remembered, we've compressed down from our 2-hour meetings to a 1-hour meeting. Get rid of this note from last time. So we are going to try to fit in efficiently with our time for these less than 60 minutes now. We're talking about these topics. Brief discussion of GRC SIG attendance, then talk about what we want to do with our 2026 budget, and then return to the project discussion that was introduced last time for a zero-knowledge verifier of a verifier. Any other topics people were hoping to get addressed today that you do not see on there? Nope. All right. We're not going to be voting today, so I'm not going to go down the roster. I do want to check in. Catherine mentioned that she has switched groups, but I don't know if we have any new attendee from Google today. Scanning the list, I would say not. Okay, well, let us move on. If this is your first or even your second time here and you haven't had a chance to introduce yourself at least twice, you are welcome to go ahead and introduce yourself to the group. Just feel free to pop off of mute. Let us know how you like to be addressed and where you're joining from. Just catching up on the chat. See if that motion carries. Meanwhile, last time we kind of finalized setting up the research fund committee. So Ming Shen has that in hand now, so you guys can start proceeding with proposals. We introduced the 2026 budget. We're going to come back to that. And we got the TikTok TAC Tech Talk. I was hoping for me to say that on chat. Very interesting looking project, and we're going to come back to that again as well. This week, there was a governing board meeting, and one of the main accomplishments of the board was to set a high-level strategy. And then in the next board meeting, they're going to start breaking that down into something more actionable and make sure that it's resourced with the right budget. Maybe just one note on the budget before we're about to go into that in a minute is that, will be a smaller budget overall next year. We were doing some very intensive deficit spending in the last year to burn through some surplus that we had, with, of course, the goal of using that effectively to advertise confidential computing. So most of that went into outreach. Things will be a little bit tighter for the TAC, but mostly just kind of spending towards actuals versus budget. So we tended not to use all of the infrastructure budget. And then maybe I'll let Mike probably do a little better job in giving the high level on the strategy. But what I'm going to be asking the board to do is get the board and the TAC together at some future meetings so that we're all on the same page of what we're trying to do next year. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, sure. So we had a vote and didn't really help it. We had there's a variety of things we want to be doing, but there's basically we want to balance between sort of supply side and demand side work. So trying to encourage new adoption, but also helping those who are already looking to adopt, as it were. So we're going to be looking to do some work with regulators and compliance, really, and standards, really as a sort of compliance set of people, regulated set of people, rather than sort of on the technical side. But in terms of what we're looking for the TAC to be doing, it's going to be looking to be things like reference architectures, integration of some of the open source projects a bit better, design practices. Some of this stuff's already going on, which I'm very pleased to say. But we're still working out exactly what it's going to look for. We're also going to be looking for OKRs for members, because we want to really get commitment from the members to doing things. And lots of you do things already, which is brilliant. Just that the fact is you're here is perfect. But being able to say, that we can rely on that, so we can plan based on those commitments will be helpful, I think. But it's we're looking to service demand in ways that will not just tell people about CCC, but about confidential computing, but allow people to use it better. And that's somewhere where the TAC can really help. So that's a very brief overview, I guess.
Questions from anybody on that? So this is pretty fresh information, which is why I haven't put together a note, but I'll try to capture that from the meeting yesterday and then send that out to the TAC list so we can start thinking about what some of those deliverables look like and start forming up what we think OKRs could be for that. And if you haven't heard the term OKR before, this is just a deliverable that we're signing up for. All right, so I don't think we have our GRC chair on the call today, but maybe I'll invite Alec to talk in a sec here. At the end of August, there was a drop off in meeting attendance. Not sure if that was due to vacation schedules. It's kind of that time of year. Or if it was just an inconvenient time slot for people. I want to make sure that we're able to continue to make progress on the topics that we chartered the governance, risk, and compliance SIG to address. And if it would be beneficial, we can keep time available in periodic TAC meetings so that we can do some of that work live with all of us and make sure we're getting those inputs in there. Just wanted to throw that out there for discussion. And maybe Alec has an opinion on or an updated view of engagement in the SIG.
I'd rather Mark kind of take this on a little bit. I think sort of what happened in the GRC SIG is there's three letters, and there's governance and regulatory compliance, and that's two subjects. And I think the SIG kind of went in the direction of pursuing regulatory governance. And I think some of the members of that SIG, myself included, had more of an interest in regulatory compliance. And so, that kind of caused a little bit of a bifurcation in the focus of the SIG. And maybe that's what Mark's seeing is kind of a bifurcation in the participation based on each individual member's interests. So let me take this back to the chair and see if he wants to either refocus this SIG on things that will draw more participation, or if there's other ways he wants to remedy this, and then I'll come back to the TAC and present that, or maybe get Mark to do it.
Thanks.
I'll add on to that by saying I heard with great interest Mike's proposal to have sort of another group to focus more on regulators. That's where my personal interest lies. So, gosh, I'm wondering if that might exacerbate the problem that we're seeing here by solving a different problem. Probably should touch base, Mark, Novak, Dan, maybe you, Dan, as the TAC chair, and figure it out kind of in a small group, and then come back to the TAC and present the findings.
Yeah, I think that it's quite likely that we will. I see it more as a potential solution if we had multiple aims and we're going to get kind of more specific with each of those two organizations. Feels like a win to me, but we can, I'll at least try to get that conversation going asynchronously on the mail list.
That would be cool. Thank you.
All right, thanks for that, Alec. Any other questions from anybody on governance, risk, and regulatory topics? Okay. All right, let's turn our attention to the budget for the next, let's say 15, 20 minutes here. Things are going to be mostly flat. Like I said, the test infrastructure, our actuals are much lower. So I think Mike chopped that down a little bit, but not using it, then there's no reason to allocate it. And then we're going to switch the funding that we had allocated for the last year and a half, 2 years for a technical community architect and try a different experiment with that money. I want to put $50,000 into 2 projects and try to help sort of materially advance projects with that funding rather than spreading it to a little bit to each project. I did put this discussion topic up on the GitHub issues so that people could chime in with other ideas. If you haven't had a chance to do that, we could just do that discussion live now. So I guess one way to think about this is, given $100,000 and what our project portfolio looks like, what is something that we can do with that money to materially advance a project or to advance confidential computing as a whole?
Can you say more about the Horizon idea you have there? I think it's a great idea, but I don't know what exactly you have planned. Maybe it's better than I thought.
Sure. Let's see what I put in here. I think that the thing I didn't.
Dan, while
Yes.
you're, okay, this is good as I'm reading this. So I have actually, in fact, I had this question. I wasn't even sure if I can bring it here, but now that you're bringing this, maybe I could ask the question. So Grameen being one of the projects under CCC, and it was, while we are getting contributions, it was still primarily funded by Intel. We have ITL, we have NSF funding for the professors, and they are also doing some work. But Intel's funding has basically disappeared. So ITL, we have several maintainers from ITL. They are still they're working on the project, and they're answering questions, but then they cannot actively work on the project until they are funded by some sort of a source. And I'm still trying to, there's several users of Grameen, IBM being one of the big ones, and there are several others, but I guess no one has the funds to put into the projects. Because I have these maintainers who are highly skilled, who can work on the project. We have several items. The project has slowed to a crawl. I still think we are in a slump, and I'm trying to gather funding from, of course, the people who are using the project. But I think a lot of people are just sort of happy using the project as it is. It's just not growing. And the growth path was obviously, one was Grameen TDX, and other was continuing to bolster Grameen SGX. So I don't know if that's something like, because you said even augment maintainers. So that would be one example. If ITL can be augmented by CCC, at least for some time as we continue to grow. We are still getting contributions, for example, we just got a PR yesterday, and it's a significant feature that people don't really, it'll take a long time to review it until we have some active maintainers. Anyway, so this is perfect. This is I wasn't sure how to bring this here, but here it is, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. So Grameen is, I think, our only project at our graduated level. We haven't really, we've intentionally not made much of a deal about progression levels because there's not the same size of project portfolio as something like CNCF that's kind of got so many things they really need different classification levels. But Grameen is, I think, our only graduation level one. So if in this budget issue you want to go ahead and make a pitch for how Grameen would use some portion of that 100K, I think that's definitely appropriate to put on the table.
Okay.
Other ideas out there?
Is there a timeline for this? I will go back and talk to the team, to our maintainers and see what we want to propose.
The board will be voting on a budget about 1 month from now. And I think that even that isn't necessarily a strict deadline for us, because so long as we put in the aggregate request, whatever we get out of that, then we've got some flexibility in how we allocate it. So what I'm basically going to be asking for is $100,000, which keeps our budget mostly flat, and just reapportioning that to, you know, something material.
You're right,
A
Dan.
small number of
It's
projects.
I don't think we need to have a definitive budget in that time frame for the TAC. Having something, you know, laid out is obviously positive and good, but if we don't have everything fully formed, and there's always the opportunity to move things around with approval from the board later on if required. So.
Thanks.
Can I add something there? So
Please.
it's like, thank you, Mona, for bringing up Grameen, because I mean, I've been aware of Grameen and I think it's great, but I honestly just lost track of it over the years, and I now started to think that I currently don't really have a view on which of our projects are used by how many kind of companies or users or folks. And I'm starting to feel like we should at least have some idea of this when allocating these funds, right? For example, we discussed last time that this SPDMRS shows great promise and it's good to support for the future, and I agree with that. For Verizon, I know it's been being used and has several collaborators, but for the others, I honestly kind of lost track on like what's the current state, and we didn't really always get to that in these review meetings. Of course, we always have like the contributor list and a little bit of like what's going on, but is there any way that we can find some metrics across all our projects to help us kind of allocate and choose these funds? Because in the end, I guess like Grameen would definitely deserve a part of it if we can like if we have lots of users there rather than few users on the other side, right? That's kind of like a no-brainer, but I don't really have this insight at all, I realize at this point.
Yeah, well, this is a good example of now that we've got sort of a motivating need for information. If we could go back and during those project reviews, ask that, I guess that's something that we can keep in mind in the coming years. We start to go back into the next annual review cycle for projects. There is a dashboard that I don't use, so I can't speak to it very effectively, but the Linux Foundation has dashboards that will show you statistics for projects. Coming up with what statistics to use to inform our decisions is pretty subjective. Something that is used in the graduation levels pretty consistently is the adoption level, but complaints against that it's sort of like a rich get richer problem. That if you already have a project that has some popularity and adoption, you're just, you know, rewarding that, but the projects that are trying to reach that aren't getting assistance to get there. So you can argue either side of that coin.
I think that's part of the reason, Dan, that we do try to ask for the plans of the different projects. You know, what are their intentions? How do they intend to grow? How, and all those sorts of things. Obviously, it's not perfect, but you know, for those which are happy to be quiescent or just to act more as a research project, that's fine. But obviously, they would generally not expect to be allocating funds, particularly in those directions. So, I think we should definitely think about how we ask those questions so that we can gain information about them.
Yeah, and one other thing to consider is whether the project could effectively use money. We don't want to just like throw money because people can always burn that. It's, is there something material that in our estimate as TAC members we think is worthwhile that we'd be able to allocate? And so I think getting those ideas into the GitHub issue would be beneficial. Mingshen?
What is the difference between this amount of money with the mentorship program budget? Because I know we have a mentorship program, but a few projects are using that budget.
Yeah, so the mentorship is totally different. The idea of funding mentorships is to bring developers into the community, tech writers into the community who wouldn't normally join, or they wouldn't be able to contribute without some additional assistance. So it's sort of like an internship, and then those are available, you know, flat across any project. Any project that can invest the time in putting a proposal together, and can afford maintainer time to coach the mentee. It's equally available across all projects.
Why don't we use that as a pool? So if any project want to use this money, they can propose a small task and allocate a small amount of money for each task, so that we have a concrete deliverables for each task. So we know how some of the outcome of this budget.
I'm not sure I understood the question. You're saying that for projects using the mentorship that.
Let's say Grameen want to use this money, and they have a plan to grow the community, or they have a plan to develop some features. They can propose the task, the one or two mentorship tasks, and then use this money.
Rian, I think you might want to take that since your hand is up.
Yes, we can absolutely help the project. So there is a process I can share with you. I'm just gonna have to look for it. So you put in a pull request explaining what you plan to do in the project, and then if it contribute to the growth of the project, Yash will add that to the LFX mentorship program website, and people will apply on the website for doing the work, like a internship, where they can earn anywhere between $3,000 and $6,000 out of our budget, dependent on where they live in the world. There's a LF calculation for that, and once the work is completed, they get paid, and the project asks them to write a blog, and that's also published. So we're really encouraging projects to get involved with that, and Yash is basically leading that at the moment.
Okay, I see. That's only for the new contributors, right? Not for the current maintainers. So I see one of the goal here is help the existing maintainers. So we cannot use mentorship program to support the current maintainers, right?
Right, that would be outside spirit.
Okay, I got your point.
Yeah, so I think this is good example, because we already have several pull requests. For example, before Dimitri left the project, he had implemented several things. We just don't have enough maintainer time to complete the reviews. So we would need something like this. But I think good reminder mentioned there are several other issues that can also use help where people can actually go implement, and maybe we can look at so Rian, you said there is some process for mentorship, if you can leave that in the chat. But Grameen, thankfully we have contributors even without, but of course I can look at some other features as well, which are sitting on the back burner. But we can't make progress until we can have maintainer time, a dedicated maintainer
Okay.
time, and that I think this fund will be really useful. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm thinking we can use a standard procedure, but not throwing this amount of money to one specific project.
Say that one more time.
Yeah, I'm thinking use the existing procedure like mentorship program to allocate this money for different projects, but not throwing out all the money to one or two projects.
So let's keep the mentorship thing separate. That is a separate budget item,
that's-
and that has a
okay.
direct intent of bringing in new contributors. What do we do with this 100K is where I want to keep.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So I'll throw some notes into the issue. One thing that's not captured here yet is that the outreach funded a study from IDC that will be published soon, I guess. And one of the things one of the conclusions that comes from that is that companies are uncomfortable verifying attestations because it's a new thing, it's complex, there's a bunch of different ways to do it based on different clouds. And so helping Verizon be successful and be sort of this common point might be something that addresses where we have data that says this is an obstacle to adopting confidential computing. So I have asked Verizon to come up with ideas about how something on the order of $50,000 would help their project, and I'll encourage them to add that into the issue. The other one that we talked about last time was that earlier in the year, the SPDM tools project said that it would be helpful to them to have a security audit, and they got a bid for that. And it was, well beyond what we didn't have any money allocated for that. So that's the other thing that's kind of on this order of magnitude that I'm aware of. But I would like all projects to, equally have a chance to make a bid for this, and then we can decide amongst the TAC about how to do those allocations. Any other thoughts on the budget? All right. So I think our next topic then would be to return to the TikTok project and talk about that a little bit more. Mingxin, do we have someone available from the project?
Yes, I think Donghang is here. And Donghang, can you reshare the slides?
Yeah, let me share.
Yeah, I think last time we presented these slides and there's no time for Q&A. And we also mentioned that we will open source a RISC-0 ZK VM version of attestation verification logic. And yeah, that's some of the remaining to-dos. We can have that done in this TAC meeting. So we're basically waiting for some Q&A and introduce the newly released RISC-0 version of attestation. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think I can share some progress update since last meeting. Since in last meeting, we mentioned in our main open source plan, we plan to open source 2 versions of our project. So basically, it's implementing the same idea with 2 different zero knowledge proof backends. And as of until last meeting, we already open sourced this Circum version. And actually, this week, yesterday, we open sourced the other version, which is based on risk zero. Sorry, let me quickly check this one. Yeah, so now the risk zero version is also open sourced under TikTok privacy innovation for now. And this include our implementation based on the risk zero. So the advantage
Which
here,
license? Just to check again for the license.
the license here is
520. I see it there. I see it there. Thank you.
yes. So so this is basically the update, and I think until now we have all the main components ready for the main open source and donation. And we do have some future plans to add more demos and functionalities. For example, as of now, as a proof of concept, we only have attestation logic implemented for AMD SDV SMP. So in the future, we can definitely add more. And yeah, so that's the update about our open source progress. And I think during last time, we didn't have enough time for Q&A. So if you have any questions regarding this project, we are happy to answer that.
I'll just go ahead then if you don't have anything. Okay, I'll go ahead. I have 2, but I'll go first with asking about the 2 implementations. Can you say, maybe I missed it last time, but why are you doing 2 different implementations? Is it just for research, or is it also for practical purposes?
I think it's actually for both and it's mainly for the research purposes. And we want to see what's the trade-off of the different zero knowledge proof backends. And at first we chose Circum because at that time, like this project was kicked off like around 1 year ago. At that time, Circum is kind of a authentic Circum backend that has a lot of support and customers. So at that time, we chose that. And also one of the advantage there is like it use, for example, if you use Gross 16, which is ZK Snark protocol, it has a trusted setup process where multiple collaborators can contribute to this process to make sure the setup is good. For example, in our scenario, if we want to build a attestation verification services with ZKP with public trust, we can rely on all hardware vendors to contribute to this trusted setup, so that so the trust model here is kind of more transparent. Since all the hardware vendors contribute to it, so it's guaranteed that as long as all the hardware vendors do not collude together, then this zero knowledge proof is convincible. So here the Circum has this kind of advantage. And for risk zero, actually, we mainly want to move to risk zero because of the performance issue. And in Circum version, the performance is not as good as we expected, because so in general, it's like verifying one signature would require like around 20 to 30 minutes. And that's the main part. Actually, that's the main bottleneck of the attestation report verification. So we think that might be too slow in many scenarios. So that's why we moved to this risk zero. And risk zero, they have good performance if you have like good hardware. Since based on our benchmark, the Risk Zero community have a online proving service where they built it with very powerful machines. And if we use that service, actually we can finish the whole proof within around 20 to 30 seconds. So that's much faster. And another advantages of Risk Zero is that we realize that now you can write all the attestation logic using Rust. And Rust is obvious. And previously with Circum, like you are writing all the logics using arithmetic circuit. So obviously, if we write it with Rust, it's more readable, so it's easier to audit, and also it's easier to implement. So that's what we see. That's the advantage of Risk Zero. So in general, the reason we have this two version is basically if you want to have a more transparent trust model or more transparent collaboration model, then Circum might be a good choice, but it could be slow. And the advantage of Risk Zero is basically now it's easier to implement more logics and easier to audit, and it's faster. So we do see they have different pros and cons. So we want to maintain both versions. But our future plan is, since the performance is a big issue, so our future plan mainly will be focusing on the Risk Zero version.
Okay, I have another question on performance, but I'll like take Mike first. But just to understand, then, do you plan to donate both or just Risk Zero? Because it doesn't sound like it's going to be useful to donate Circum if there's no plan to keep supporting it, and if it's very slow.
Yeah, that's a good question. Mingxin, do you have any idea about this? Since our original plan is we want to donate this as a whole, including both repositories.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. I mean, that's semantics, right? But so just to understand, the Risk Zero is kind of your path forward, and then like Zircom is more like a research prototype. Like just I think that's a good context that I was missing before. But Mike, go ahead. And then I have another one after your.
Yeah, no, please keep going, Fritz. You're on a roll. I can wait, no problem.
So my next one is also mean. So sorry for that. But if the performance is this bad, why use your knowledge at all? Because as far as I understood, the initial motivation was that the code overheads or the overheads to verify a attestation service TE or how you call it, like attestation aggregator TE, or sorry, you had like a nice wording for that I was missing now. But as far as I understood, your initial motivation was that if you can get away with not needing to verify the TEE, then you have a smaller TCB. That I buy, but if the trade-off is to have 20 seconds per attestation, that doesn't sound like it's worth it. So what did I get that right, or what other benefits are there? Because it's just the TCB size that you have, right?
Yes, the main motivation of this project is to exclude the attestation verification service from the TCB. And yeah, the performance, like we do add some like 20 seconds burden here. And I think there are also some solutions if you think the performance is not good enough. For example, we can use, and our project's main goal is not to improve the performance, but to build trust, right? To enhance the trust so that we don't need to trust the attestation verification service anymore. So if you think the performance is not good enough, actually one hybrid approach is you can use this project to ZKP to bootstrap a TE server. So this will take 20 seconds. And in that TE server, what you can do is you can deploy another attestation verification application such as Verizon, then use that to attest the rest of the cluster. So this is kind of a hybrid approach if you have performance concerns, since our project is just to build the trust at the very beginning, and when you have the trust, the rest of it you can actually use Verizon in a TE to do the rest of the attestation, and the story still remain the same now. you don't need to trust any party in this whole flow. And yeah, that's the purpose of our project.
Well, you still trust the TEEs that you test, right? That's the whole purpose of this thing. So why not use such a TEE to run attestation servers? I'm fully missing the hybrid approaches benefits over just using a TE. Well, you would have a verifier code like on the like verifier side on the, but I mean that's just the small code size that you add versus a lot of ZKP code, right? I mean, not taking away the research like aspect, I like it, but like practical applications, I'm still missing, because you don't increase the security by anything, because you still end up relying on the TEE at the end, right? Like if you do the full thing in ZKP, yeah, sure, that's a different, like whole different mechanism, but you still rooted back to a TEE at the end. And so then I'm missing the kind of added security by adding a different crypto like approach to it.
That's let me think about it.
So my understanding was that often the CSPs are operating their own verifiers, and that kind of breaks the model of how much you trust the CSP, you know, if that's part of your threat model. And so rather than having a verifier that is itself attested and kind of going down the whole turtles problem thing, that you would have a different mechanism for verifying that the CSP was actually operating the code correctly. And so they wanted verifiable compute, and ZKPs were one way to get verifiable compute, but didn't really need the zero knowledge property.
So I think we need new ways of building trust relationships, because having any type of TE-based distributed system, which is what we're talking about in most use cases, right? The building blocks are complex, and there may be many different types of trust relationship, particularly between mutually distrusting parties who are trying to build trust in maybe a federated way or a hierarchy way, which is where you want to be able to have different dependencies, and where you can, and this gives you a tool to do that. It gives you a tool to change how you build trust. And as someone who cares rather a lot about that, I haven't written a book about it, I applaud this, and I think it's a very interesting approach.
Yeah, thanks. And I also want to add more comments about the performance, since right now we do see a performance issue here, but as of now, actually, we didn't perform any optimization to our code, since for risk zero, actually, it has its unique way of optimization. Like it's generally is like you're writing your program using Rust, and it will translate everything into the RISC-V machine code, and then perform ZKP on that. So we do need to understand more about how to optimize the performance in this specific scenario.
And that's what research programs are for, right? And this is partly a research program, and that's I think entirely appropriate. So Dan said, my struggle with this comes mainly from the fact that you shift the problem of verifier code is too complex to trust it to my local ZKP code is too complex to trust it. But who provides that, and who's in a position to verify it gives you more options. That's the thing. Having more options is a good thing. And it may be that you can have fewer versions of the ZKP code where you may be revving the verifier code fairly frequently, for instance. So again, I think this is absolutely a very useful and interesting approach. So can I get to my question? Is that okay now, or do you want to?
Yes,
Go ahead. I didn't want to.
Yushia queued up behind you.
Okay, cool. So my question really is, you talked about performance. I'm not too worried about the performance, particularly as these things, tend to improve over time. I'm more interested in what plans you have to, if not commercialize it, at least put it on a footing where it can become more than just a research project and something that people can actually rely on and becomes a robust system, both in terms of architectural design, but in terms of build and project maturity as well. Is this something that you see really as long-term as a research project, or do you see it in its current or future form becoming a supportable, maintainable, and productizable thing?
Yeah, we are actually actively testing this in some of our internal projects. Since in some TikTok use cases, we do need to establish trust as the first step. So as of now, we are deploying this in some of our internal projects just to see how it works.
Okay, so it does look like there is a possible route to a mature project, a graduated project. So I think that's not something that it shouldn't necessarily be a blocker, but something we should consider when we're looking at these projects. Thank you very much indeed, Dongheng. That's excellent.
Go ahead, Yuxia.
Hi, this is Yusha from NYU. I'm quite interested in the zero knowledge third-party attesting services that introduced by TikTok. But I just like the phrase from NVIDIA. I also struggle with the necessity of the zero knowledge part, because as far as I know that the attestation evidence are public, like all they involve is public key and the certificate and the measurement result and the reference values. And I just, like, struggle to understand like why we need to introduce zero knowledge in this part. And I found that in the talk in the chat of the Zoom, that Chauvin from Fala, that he mentioned that it might be useful in some limited computation device like the smart contract, or which remind me that maybe this might make sense in the scenario that we want it to be public verifiable, not just you as a client that interact with the remote cloud and need to attest it, but you need to generate something that can be verified by everybody on the world, that you might need that zero knowledge proof. So that's how I understand this problem, but I also want to hear the thoughts from the Dongheng from TikTok. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think there are two aspects. The first one is indeed, if we only consider the standard attestation logic, everything should be transparent, and obviously the attestation evidence should be public. So in this setting, there's nothing to hide. So indeed, zero knowledge property is not needed. So actually there, what we are seeking for is actually a cryptographic proof. So whether or not zero knowledge, it is fine. So then we had exactly the same question when we developed this. And so we also had some research on looking for a cryptographic proof that is fast or more efficient, since intuitively, because it has less properties, it should be faster, right? But so during our research, we didn't find any other like cryptographic proofs that are faster than ZKP. I think it's mainly because of the blockchain community. So the ZKP's development is much faster and it's more efficient. So yeah, indeed, if you have a cryptographic proof that does not have ZK property, but is faster than ZKP, then it could be a good option for this project as well. And there is a second aspect, like we are also trying to see if zero knowledge property could be interesting in some specific scenarios. For example, let's say, but this is beyond the standard attestation logic for sure. It could be some user policies. For example, if in certain scenario, let's say, for example, if I want all my data to be located in specific like locations in specific regions to satisfy the compliance requirements, for example. For example, sometimes my data cannot leave certain region, then I want my CSPs or T clusters to prove that all their machines are located in the correct location. And in that sense, CSPs may not want to just leak their network topology or the number of their clusters, like the cluster volume or something like that. In that sense, actually, so CSP can leverage these zero knowledge properties to hide the detailed like network topology. But meanwhile, because we can just write this logic in the attestation code, then the attestation will help check like whether all these machines are in correct location, but without revealing where they actually are. So we do find there could be some interesting scenarios where ZKP can play, but yeah, you are right. The general attestation does not need it.
Thank you. That answered my question. Thank you.
Can you elaborate a little bit on the MC? Like, I guess multi-party computation will get you a part of the way, right? Like, did you most just choose the libraries because, as you said, they were just faster, which is totally fair. But it's been some years that I worked with MCP, but like garbled circuits or other stuff like this seem like a natural, like minimum functionality to just compute, I don't know, a proof that the output is good enough, right? So did you also look at like garbled circuits and other stuff like this, or did you just end up choosing it because of like ZKP protocols or stuff were faster?
Let me understand this. So you are saying we can use like garbled circuits or other multi-party computation protocols to do attestation verification? Is that what you mean?
That's the question. Yeah, I mean I didn't look at this, right? I'm just because you correctly said you don't need the Z of ZKP, right?
Yes.
Or ZK of ZKP. So just trying to understand. Also, like no, like not trying to put you on the spot there. It's just if you have ideas on if circuits, etc., are interesting.
Yeah, we need to watch the time, folks. We're getting very close.
Sure, of course.
Oh, okay, yeah. I think I can get a quick answer since the garbled circuit or general MPC is a two-party protocol or multi-party protocol, and that's actually not suitable for our setting where we have this attestation verification server. So it's going to be more suitable for a peer-to-peer setting. So, for example, the attestation verification service directly run MPC with the reliant party, and in that model, that might work. And as far as I know, especially when it comes to the signature verification, the MPC might be slow.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, well, thank you for the update. We have to kind of maybe bring it abruptly to a close. I do want to hit one last thing before people start fleeing to their next meeting.
Well, how we bring this to a vote? Are we close to that? Are we able to do that today or not, do you think?
Why don't we have people comment on the mail list, and if they feel like they are ready to bring that towards a vote, then they can reply to the thread on the mail. Excuse me, on the mail list. Is that okay for everyone?
Ming-Shen, Dong-Han?
Yeah, I'm in the mail.
Okay, great. Well, thanks again for sharing that with us, and I hope there's some more discussion on the mail list. It's certainly an interesting and advanced topic, so it's nice to see the level of research that's out there right now. So just coming back to our TAC responsibilities, we have this liaison role, and I think maybe sometimes it's unclear to people what they should be doing. This example of the budget issue of if projects have something that would materially advance them and they can get their idea onto that GitHub issue, that would be great. So I want to make sure that each of the projects is aware of that opportunity. Here's the current, I think this is up to date, look at our liaison responsibilities. Nathaniel, Henry, and Bob are sort of perennially absent, but otherwise, I think each of us has a project that we're supposed to help facilitate communication for. So please reach out to your project, give them that issue ID number 330, and ask them to get their proposal into that. Is that clear for everyone?
Do you need something from the SPDMRS, or is that one clear?
Yeah, that one would be clear, but
Okay,
yeah. Keith?
I see Catherine is red on this page, maybe related to, there have been some organizational changes on the Google side. I think I'm going to be taking over for Catherine here in the TAC. Assume that's the Google Catherine on this list?
Yes.
All right, I'll work with Catherine on this project liaison aspect of it, but wanted to introduce people that I don't know and let them know that I'll be joining from here, and I'll try to catch up. But today I was just listening in.
All right. Well, thanks
Thanks,
for
Keith.
rejoining us. It's nice to have you back, Keith.
Yeah. Thanks.
You can escape, but not forever.
No, keep coming back.
Yes, and so Catherine was responsible for helping manage the Linux kernel SIG, and you've got Stephen out there who I think helps facilitate the agendas, and I'd asked him to come in for an update from the kernel SIG sometime in the near future. So you might want to sync up with him as well.
Okay, I'll follow up with Catherine to see where things are there.
Okay, great. All right, that brings us to the end of time. Thanks, everybody.